All right, thank you, and good afternoon. Welcome to the GMC October membership meeting. As many of you know, I'm Peggy Kelsey, the GMC board chair, and in my day job, an executive VP at WEC Energy Group. Just a side note, I continue to really enjoy meeting with so many of you at these meetings and between meetings, and I'm confident that the connections we're all making are truly making a difference here. And we're tying your interests with our strategic plan together, and you'll hear more about that today. So during the past several meetings, we've listened to speakers and guests share information that is aligned with our four priority areas in the strategic plan: fiscal strength, public safety, education, and infrastructure. We've been problem solving in small groups and beginning to identify how we can best move forward as individuals and an organization and figure out where do we as the GMC fit in and where do we first step in. It's been a lengthy and important process to reimagine our strategy over the last year, and the enthusiasm and the momentum are indeed very high. But it's also important that we take time for context setting and introspection as we move along the way to trying to implement our strategic plan. We all know by our very nature, we're all motivated to make a difference. We all have a sense of a bias toward action. And that aligns well with the GMC motto, it can be done. Which brings us to today's meeting, a time for outside perception, an opportunity to hear from leaders who are new to our community about what drew them here and what keeps them here. As you know, 2024 will be a defining moment for Milwaukee as we prepare to host our second national political convention, allowing us to showcase the many attributes that make our home special. While we rank at the top of some national and frankly international lists, we are unfortunately at the bottom of others. Those of us who've been here for quite some time know there is a real opportunity for change and that we have a great foundation upon which to build that change. We thought it would be helpful to hear from some new colleagues and friends so we can revive our innovative thinking and propel our work even further. Before we hop into this curated conversation, a few reminders, and then I'm going to turn things over to Joel. First, you're going to see some new note cards on your tables. I'm going to ask you to pick one up now as we get started so you have it sitting next to you. Use it throughout the meeting to capture your thoughts, your ideas, your questions, frankly, whatever you have on your mind. You can put your name there or not, and I'll remind you again at the end of the meeting. Yes, we will have another random drawing at the end of the meeting. And I'm using these somewhat shamelessly to keep people here to the end because I know we're all busy and we buzz out for that 1:30 or 2 o'clock meeting, but also to highlight some of the things that make Milwaukee special. And as always, if you've not done so already, I encourage you to introduce yourselves to each other at the table. This is an opportunity to make new connections, not only for yourself, but perhaps for someone at your table who doesn't know the others. With that, it's my pleasure to turn it over to Joel.
Thank you, Peggy, and welcome all today. I think Peggy Williams-Smith is a UWM grad, right? And I'm a Marquette grad, and there's like a UWM Marquette vibe happening at this front table here. But I know we have people who are supporters of everybody, all of those places here in the community today, and it's great that we get a chance to just get an opportunity to hear from some people who have joined us and who are new to the community. I want to, first of all, encourage you to scan that QR code that I think might be on the screen, but it's also at your table here. The link will take you to a short survey to fill out about the focus areas that we are doing through our strategic plan and how you want to engage in those. Over the next several weeks, we'll name co-chairs or chairs of our new committees, start to organize these efforts to carry us into the work of 2024. As you're all aware, member engagement is at the core of this effort, and we'll use this information not necessarily to assign you to anything at this point, but to better understand your interests, explore your areas of expertise, and allow you to provide some feedback. So please share that information with us, and we'll also send out a link to you about that if you don't get a chance to do it today. Now on to a couple of updates. The 10th cohort of Spark is underway. Spark, as most know, is a business accelerator for Black, Hispanic, and women-owned businesses with annual revenues of under $1 million. The current Spark cohort includes 25 companies, so it's clear that demand continues to exist for this effort. Interestingly, our colleague Deshaun Robinson has shared a few great growth stories already from this current cohort, including that a local photography business, Dominica Photo, recently had work published in Vogue magazine, so hitting the big time. As we've spoken about before, this will be the final Spark cohort at the GMC as this program will move on to a new partner to start 2024. We're thrilled to see this effort continuing to bear fruit in our community. Scale Up is also hosting a cohort of Rising Tides funded by the Surdna Foundation out of New York. We identified 9 Black and brown entrepreneurs who are interested in growing and passing on generational wealth through the entrepreneurial journey. The program focuses on efforts to increase wealth, access to capital, and revenue through educational sessions and a networked ecosystem. So we look forward to reporting the results of that later this year. Our Milwaukee Appraiser Diversity Initiative continues to make preparations for the pilot program launch in April of 2024. Funding is being secured to certify up to 10 appraisers through classes and fieldwork over a 7-month period in 2024. The program will ultimately introduce enhanced diversity in the appraiser community and help attack biases in the valuation of homes in all communities. Our Commons team is gearing up for the Destination Innovation and heading to the Windy City. This, quote, career taste test will take 15 college students on a behind-the-scenes trip to both the Milwaukee and Chicago Molson Coors headquarters. They'll interact with leaders, participate in fast-track interviews, and make mentor connections. We certainly appreciate our partners at Molson Coors for hosting this all-expenses-paid trip for our region's emerging talents. You know, one of the best aspects of the role that I have is the ability to take part in active conversations and action efforts in our community. I want to highlight just a couple of those that I've been engaged in the last few weeks that made an impact on me and will affect our GMC work now and into the future. 2 Fridays ago, I took part in a panel hosted by the Sojourner Family Peace Center that outlined the economic impact of intimate partner and domestic violence in Milwaukee and across the state. Cecilia Gore, former board chair for Sojourner and a GMC board member, and I sent out a note last week about this issue and about the report, and you recall Ashanti Hamilton touched on this at our September membership meeting. In Milwaukee County alone, the negative economic impact of domestic violence was measured at over $110 million in the year 2021, the year of this report. This is a staggering number and one that's certainly underreported due to the stigma around and the personal nature surrounding domestic violence. 2/3 of businesses have no policies around domestic violence. We all agree that public safety is a key aspect of our stronger Milwaukee, and Cecilia and I hope that the work of the Sojourner and other partners can help address this immediate challenge to create a safer community. We encourage you to reach out to Sojourner and other partners if they can help in your organization. I also testified at the hearing of the Wisconsin Assembly Committee on State Affairs at State Fair last Thursday. Say that several times quickly. The hearing dealt with the legislative proposal to provide funding that will keep the Milwaukee Brewers here until 2050. Many of you are aware that the origin story of the Greater Milwaukee Committee in the late 1940s was really about how to elevate Milwaukee to being a major league city. And Milwaukee County Stadium, notably the first stadium ever built entirely with public money, was an immediate outcome of this organization's organizing and community efforts. I shared with the members of the committee that professional baseball continues to be part of what makes us a major league town, especially since we continue to kind of hit above our weight class as the smallest market in all of professional baseball. But I offered cautionary comments that our partners at the city and the county are still operating on the razor's edge, even after all of this community's efforts to help them generate local revenue to preserve basic services. So my caution was that we can't overburden our local partners when we have just acted in partnership to stave off the fiscal calamity that was right in front of us. It certainly appears that progress is being made on this front. We're working with local partners like the Brewers, the Milwaukee Metropolitan Association of Commerce, and others to achieve a positive outcome on this issue. Finally, I continue to participate on the Republican National Convention Host Committee, which has the responsibility for the local fundraising associated with that event. You're all well aware, I think, that Ted Kellner has taken over about 5 months ago as the CEO of the host committee and helping lead those efforts. Ted, other community leaders like John Schlifsky, I think would share with you that we have strong momentum in the community right now, but there's a major push that'll be ongoing between now and year end to reach our community's goals. That brings me to today's topic and to our moderator, without whom there would be no RNC, just like there would have been no DNC. As we approach the 2024 RNC, Milwaukee will once again be on a national stage. Those of us who have lived here for a long time know that we reside in a complex place, blessed with an abundance of gifts, but also fraught with challenges. We can also be an insular place. I've joked with some, including our guests today, that one of the first questions you ask or are asked when you meet somebody new is, so where did you go to high school? That's a Milwaukee, it certainly is a Milwaukee thing. There's an assumption that everyone is from here or has been here a long time. For today, we thought we would turn that on its head and introduce you to several people who didn't go to high school here, but have chosen to be here in their career. They accomplished a great deal before they ever came to Milwaukee, and they're helping lead transformation here now. But as we get set to show our community off to others, we wondered, what did these people think of Milwaukee before they arrived? What have their early impressions been? How can we all roll up our sleeves with them and be the place that we strive to be? I've been blessed to meet each of them over the course of the last year or so. Look forward to working with them in partnership in the months to come. But I couldn't imagine a better person to lead this conversation than Peggy Williams-Smith, President and CEO of Visit Milwaukee. Over her 25-year career here, Peggy has time and again demonstrated her passion for developing resilient and high-functioning teams that deliver results and help reshape our community. Her unwavering goal is to create positive economic growth for our region through travel and tourism. Most of us agree that Peggy could appropriately be called Milwaukee's biggest cheerleader, making her the perfect moderator for today's panel. Please welcome my friend Peggy Williams-Smith.
Well, good afternoon. Thank you for having me. I am really excited to be here. However, I am a little stressed because I did not bring all of my notes with me, including the bios for the panelists, so I was having people send them to me, so I'm a little off my game right now. Before I introduce our panelists, I just wanted to take a moment to talk a little bit about the RNC and the impact that it's going to have on our city. We could not be more thrilled to have this second chance at hosting a national or a major political event. There are 4 events in the world that are considered major events: the Super Bowl, the inauguration, the Democratic National Convention, and the Republican National Convention. To be able to host those back to back is pretty special, and we are really excited for the impact that it's going to create. And having conversations this morning with Allison, We talked about all of the things that have already come to the city because of what we've seen from the Republican National Convention being here. First of all, they held their summer meetings this past August, as well as the first GOP debate, which was about a $3 million economic impact towards the community. And every time they're doing this, they're leaving a little something behind with them that is going to make it better. I don't know if any of you got to see it on TV. I came home after being at the debate and then watched it on DVR, and just seeing the skyline of our city and the way that they talked about what Milwaukee was. 15,000 journalists who will be speaking about the good things that are here in Milwaukee is something that we would never get through any type of earned media that my team could ever do. So that is super, super exciting. As a lifelong resident of our great city, it's my absolute pleasure to lead Visit Milwaukee during this incredibly exciting time. My job is not, I don't build anything, I don't make anything. Visit Milwaukee doesn't do the great things. It's all of you in this room that do the absolute amazing things that make this city so great, and it's our job to tell those stories. And that is incredibly exciting during this time. As you will hear today from our esteemed panelists, I'm optimistic that we're going to hear good things from our newest residents, but that doesn't mean that we don't have our challenges. And as Joel said, I am the cheerleader. You're not going to hear me saying a lot of bad things, because that's not what we need. I was so incredibly thrilled the other day. We had a group of people, about 70 people, come in from Portland, and they were looking at Milwaukee as a best practice in order to see what they could do to move their city forward. They've had some challenges. The morning that they came in, they were in the New York Times for some issues that they've had. And when they introduced me and I spoke to them at lunch on Friday, they said, you know, we want to be like Milwaukee. We want to have swagger. And that was the first time I had heard that we talk about ourselves having swagger. You know, I know that even I did it for a long time. When someone new would move to the city, I would say, they'd come from LA, or they'd come from somewhere maybe where it's a little warmer, a little longer time than it is here. And I'd be like, why Milwaukee? Well, I don't say that anymore, and neither should any of you. There's a good reason why you should be in Milwaukee. This is the time you should be in Milwaukee. This is a great time to be a Milwaukeean. So I'm thrilled now to introduce our panelists. I'm going to start with Maxie Jackson. With more than 3 decades of management, content, and audience development experience in radio, television, digital, and live events, Jackson joined Radio Milwaukee after serving as the Chief Content Officer for New England Public Media. Welcome, Maxie. Maya Payne-Smart is a writer, a parent educator, and literacy advocate who has served on the boards of numerous library and literacy organizations. Welcome, Maya. And Bart Lundy is an American men's college basketball coach, and he was the head coach at Queen's University of Charlotte from 2013 to 2022, and he is going to win the NCAA tournament this year. Welcome, Bart. Now, I was told to give very short bios. That's why it was so short, because we want to hear a little about each of you. So tell us a little bit, and I'll start with you, Maxie, about your pre-Milwaukee life, and then what led you to move here.
Wow, okay. I hope you can see me in the corner. I know you really don't have a good angle. I am a 25-plus year public media professional. I've been working professionally in media for 35 years. So I've been in a lot of different places around the country, all up and down the East Coast, Los Angeles, Chicago, Cleveland. And so what really drew my attention to coming to Milwaukee was I spent a little time here years ago doing some research for a public service announcement campaign for the city of Milwaukee on men who have sex with other men. And it was really to promote HIV testing. And during that time, I got a real good indication of some of the challenges the city had with respect to racial polarization, lack of diversity, and just poor measurements in terms of the quality of life for black folks. And that hasn't changed a whole lot from when I was here some 30 years ago. And so I was fascinated just by that, and wanted to accept the challenge of working in a public media institution that I believe has the right vision and mission to make a difference, and I wanted to be a part of helping that station make that difference.
Thank you. Maya?
I too have a background in media and journalism. So for the last year, I've worked as an education and business journalist, and then most recently, I'm the author of Reading for Our Lives, the Literacy Action Plan from Birth to Six. But I have a great deal of experience being a newcomer in many communities. I'm from Akron, Ohio, but have lived in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and Chicago, and Clemson, South Carolina, Gainesville, Florida, Richmond, Virginia, and most recently, Austin, Texas. So I tell people that Milwaukee is the polar opposite of Austin, Texas, but in all of the best ways, which I'm sure the panel will get into in more depth. But what brought me here was not my professional path, but my husband, who's the head basketball coach at Marquette. So I say that I chose to be here because I'm often the one behind the scenes pushing for moves and changes because I enjoy that and the opportunity for a professional reset and also to learn all of the new things that you can only learn when you're somewhere new. The best way to get to know a community I found is through volunteering and really getting to know intimately the challenges that community has and experiences, but also getting to know the leaders and momentum builders and coalition builders and people who are working to address those challenges. So I look forward to digging into that further, and thank you for including me in the panel.
Bart?
Good morning or afternoon. Good afternoon. Like Maya, I've been all over. It's a basketball life. So I grew up in Virginia, in the Appalachian Mountains, pretty poor. Moved all around North Carolina. Spent most of my adult life in North Carolina, but also Marquette, North Texas, but then other jobs in the state. Actually had the same head coaching job twice, if you can imagine that. But I did get to know Milwaukee when I was here with Buzz Williams at Marquette for 3 years. And love the community, love the folks here. Obviously, I look at things through a sports lens, and the fans. Hey, John. The fans are terrific. They really care. It's not like that everywhere. And I also knew that this was a community. I came here from Charlotte, and Charlotte had some similar challenges to Milwaukee. And I felt as though I was more than the basketball coach at the university, and we were right in the city. And when I met with Mark, came here to talk about this job, I felt the same type of alignment, and felt that you get to a certain point in your career, you don't just want to make money or get wins, or you want significance, and I felt like we could make some difference here.
So you touched on that, the factors that went into your decision to move here, Bart. Maya, you said that you're behind the decision. So what were some of those factors that went into you deciding to move here to Milwaukee?
As I mentioned, I'm from Akron, Ohio, so I'm a Midwesterner. My husband is from the Madison area, and we have a daughter. So Milwaukee, this area, I think, is a wonderful place to raise a child and sort of embed culturally some of the values that we had growing up. I think that there are regional differences. Of course, there are wonderful people everywhere. I also tell people I appreciate having 4 distinct seasons and that snow builds character. I think one of the things that Milwaukee downplays that is really a phenomenal asset for people visiting and living here is Lake Michigan. It's incredible. And there is so much dynamism and change just in terms of natural environments here, the park system. So I think that the natural assets of the community are something that aren't frequently touted, but are also benefits. So behind the scenes, just family life was a factor, the welcoming nature of Marquette specifically, and Milwaukee more broadly were important factors in our decision to move.
Thank you. Maxie, you didn't have a great experience, or you saw things that were different. So tell me what made you, besides Radio Milwaukee, what made you say, I think I can make a difference in Milwaukee?
Yeah, I mean, I must be stubborn because I was the runner-up for the WUWM general manager position a few years earlier. Didn't get that, but when this opportunity came, I leaped at it. I can't say the city specifically was the draw. I can honestly tell you that I was ready to make a career pivot myself. I've been, like I said, working in public media for 25 years, and I've spent the majority of my time programming NPR news stations towards baby boomers. And if you know anything about the media industry, you know we're at a crossroads, and particularly with public media, where serving that generation is no longer the focus. We have to start working more towards Gen X, Millennials, and Gen Z. Radio Milwaukee is, I think, uniquely positioned to serve that community. We're already in that space. How we master communicating through them, through digital platforms, through social media, and with our terrestrial radio signal is the key. And so I wanted to be part of the movement towards serving the next generation of public broadcasting. And so this is one of those stations, one of the unique ones in our entire public media system that was ready to do that, and I wanted to be a part of that.
That's fantastic. So we hear a lot here in Milwaukee that, and then we have challenges with public safety. And when I travel around in my job and I speak to people in other cities, it's something that's happening around the country. We hear it all the time. It doesn't get brought up in my circles from meeting planners from other major cities. But 60% of our visitors come from within the state of Wisconsin, and we hear it all the time from those visitors. Did you have any perceptions of crime coming into the city? And how are you addressing public safety issues in your professional life? I'll start with you, Maxie.
Yeah, I'll be honest, public safety is important, but it's never been the priority consideration for me. When my wife and I, raising 2 black children, thought about where we would want to live and what kind of city we wanted to be in, we were much more concerned with access and exposure than we were to exclusivity and ownership, for lack of a better term. Our focus was, how can we put our children in high-performing public school systems with great access to public transportation, where our children could benefit from a multiracial, multicultural, multi-ethnic reality that is around the world. And so I think you do a disservice to your children, to the people in your surrounding, if you're not giving them access to the flavors, the verve that comes with a very diverse environment. So that was always priority for us. We clearly want to be safe and protected, but I ride public transportation all the time. In fact, I think they should hire me to do a public campaign. I'm the man of the people who rides with the people. But at the end of the day, you know.
We'll make sure to tell David Steele
please
that.
Please do. Let him know. Let him know I'm here for him.
Maya.
Public safety was not a consideration when doing research on Milwaukee or moving here. Again, as someone who's lived so many different places, every community has its challenges with public safety. I think after arriving here and having my car broken into once, then public safety is on my radar in a different way. But the way that I think of it is not in terms of policing, but in terms of the root causes of what contributes to having so many people committing crimes or driving recklessly or any of the other social issues that we're facing in the city. And for me, it ties back to my mission and my work, which is all around literacy and reading and educational outcomes. When you have a system that's graduating so many people who don't have the basic reading proficiency that they need to advance their educations, to complete job applications, to build careers and take care of families, it's inevitable that you have crime. So anytime people mention public safety in my presence, you all included, I like to turn the conversation back to those early years and what we're doing to support parents and families and doing what they need to do to lay the foundation for kids to be able to take advantage of the educational opportunities that exist in K through 12. It just starts so much younger, and we all have to think about how in our roles and our work we can have an impact on the lives of young children.
Well said.
So before I go to you, Bart, I'm just going to ask a question. So as you said, Maxie, that there is, systemic challenges here in Milwaukee. One of those is major, from educational achievement to wealth. A massive gap along racial lines persists. Coming from different cities and having so much experience in different cities, what have you seen done in other places that might help Milwaukeeans come together to work more closely to close these gaps?
Yes, can me?
I am.
Oh.
Lexi. I'm looking right at you.
All right. You know, I thought about this question. I think this is a systemic problem across the country, and it is historical. I think we do a disservice when we don't really, as you mentioned, get to the root cause of the social ills in this country. I'm real fond of Racial Equity Institute out of Durham, North Carolina, that does a lot of work to reveal the data points that prove that race is the underlying issue in this country. But with that said, I look at Atlanta, Georgia as the signature city that really, the business community, at that time in the 60s and 70s, the white business community made a conscious decision, an intentional decision to create access points for black power in politics and economics. They wanted to avoid rioting, they wanted to avoid income inequality, and all kinds of things that were part of the South. And they chose it over all the other southern cities. So when you look at why Atlanta is the capital of the South, it's because the white business community in the 60s said, let's create avenues for black success in politics and in economic development. And that's why Hartsfield-Jackson Airport is established like it is. It's the busiest airport in the country. The vendors who built it and who occupy it are black majority in a black majority city. There was a conscious intentionality around empowering the majority of the community so that there would be less income or economic inequality. And I think that plagues this whole country. Certainly a factor here, why the outcomes for African Americans are as they are. But you know, that's a decision that the leadership in this community has to intentionally go towards.
Maya?
I think if I'm comparing specifically to Austin, which is where I have the most recent experience, was there for 6 years, I would say to Maxi's point, when we talk about investing in people, investing in black people and black-led organizations and causes and institutions that serve black children and help them get to the point where they can do all the things that everyone in this room has been able to do as a result of your educational background, your social networks, your professional networks. When we think about making those investments, I think one thing I saw that was positive in Austin was people treating social change issues with the seriousness and bringing the skill set that they use in their professional lives. So great deal of emphasis in nonprofits on data, measurement, tracking, and scaling things that work, and almost a ruthless cutting off or neglect of things that were ineffective. So I think that there is room for growth and maturity in terms of funders, philanthropists, companies, and your corporate responsibility efforts in raising the level of accountability for not just doing things or activity, but for results. Seeing kids educated, seeing kids enrolled in high quality programs, seeing kids attain the scores that we all expect. And that part of that is just capacity building and professional development among people working among and for these most vulnerable parts of our community.
Thank you. Bart, at UWM, you have the most diverse four-year college in the state of Wisconsin. Tell me what you see, what you've seen in other places.
So again, most recently in Charlotte, we had some of the same issues coming out of the pandemic, coming out of George Floyd killing. We had some riots. We've had division along racial lines. But I did feel like in Charlotte there was more cohesion and there was more synergy between organizations to try to fix some of those problems. I'm very proud that we have the most diverse campus in the state, but I think that folks that are in this room, we all share the responsibility that if we have a crime problem, if we have an education problem, that we create programs, pathways, find money to create hope, and that's what I see in this community is. There are a lot of kids, and I focus on kids. Most of my players are black, they are role models for this community. We want to be the city school. We are the city school. No offense to Marquette too. But we have access. We have access. We're affordable. We're a place where a kid can be a first gen and can make a difference. But we got to reach those kids, and we got to give those kids hope. And I think that's where our team can make an impact, and our university can make an impact. It's part of the reason I came here, because I felt there was a genuine commitment to making a difference, and it takes a community. It really does take a community, and we can all do our little bit, but if you want this community to be better with crime, with education, you got to do it one kid at a time, one family at a time. And I think that's where we can all in this room, we have it pretty good, and we can help.
So that leads me to my next question. How are each of you getting involved in the community since you've been here? And you might want to start with how long you've been here, because I think there's varying times. Maxie, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I've been here just a year and a month, so it's all relatively new. I jokingly tell people I thought I was coming to a cushy job. You know, everything was financially solvent. We were good, but that wasn't the case. And so I've spent this first year really trying to repair relationships with our major donors, with our funders, and with our listenership, quite frankly. Fine-tuning what we offer content-wise and programming-wise. But I do believe that every day I'm in the office, every day I'm working for Radio Milwaukee, I'm doing my community service. Our station is so focused on community. And I'm taking it up a notch. One of the things we've done is we've invested in a $120,000 listening tour. It's where we're going to go around to different parts of greater Milwaukee, from urban, rural, suburban, LGBTQ+, black, brown, white, yellow, red, low income, high income, really doing deep ascertainment, qualitative and quantitative research to understand what is the nexus, what's the common fiber, what are the things that matter across the spectrum, so that we can start to make sure our programming speaks to that. Because as a public service media organization, if we're not deeply reflecting the needs, wants, and aspirations of the community we serve, I think we're off base. And while it's great to be a music discovery platform, our real intention is to be a public service media.
Thank you. Bart, what have you been doing, and how long have you been here?
18 months. I can get more specific, but 18 months, we've spent a lot of time with our program, and me personally trying to first get out into the community, and meeting a lot of people, and some of the folks in this room have helped me to connect to others. And then with our program, because we don't have football, we're right out front and center for the university. I wanted to narrow our focus. We're all over last year helping this school and individuals, and we really do have good buy-in with our guys that we need to be a good team, because you'll understand this. If you're not a good team, nobody listens to anything you say. But we have really narrowed our focus. We're doing partnerships with Sharp Literacy, if you know that organization, but they're the only outside organization that goes into MPS with what they call STEAM, so STEM and arts. And then the Boys and Girls Club outside of the structure of the school. So we're trying to really streamline everything that we do. If you look under your table, you got a schedule, and we've got a new campaign. We want 100 companies to buy 100 tickets, and you can use those tickets if you want, or you can give them back to us, and we're going to get kids in the stands. And because they need hope, they need to see that there's a pathway, to help improve our program. So I know there's another big ideas question, but I have too many ideas to keep me up all night. But we really are serious about trying to help.
That's wonderful. I urge everyone to buy 100 tickets this year.
Mm-hmm.
Maya,
So my work, I'm a researcher and a question asker at heart. So my primary work here is trying to uncover some of the leading indicators, the things that are contributing to the reading disparities that are making news headlines when kids are in 4th grade or 8th grade or not graduating from high school. So we're all aware and we all see the articles where there are these extraordinary gaps between Black students and white students, Hispanic students and white students, lower socioeconomic students and higher socioeconomic students. But what can we do prior to those stats being published every year to prevent those things? And what can we do prior to kindergarten to get kids ready to take advantage of whatever kind of classroom instruction they're receiving? So I'm interested in, and I've been doing this work just through conversations with people and calling people up, asking researchers, asking leaders of nonprofits, and trying to get my arms around what resources are available for identifying kids who have learning disabilities or developmental delays prior to kindergarten, prior to preschool. What resources do we have for teaching parents at scale the things that they need to know to do the everyday little things that build kids' language skills and literacy skills? So my work that's in my book, Reading for Our Lives, is the work that I do every day. It's both spreading the message to the parents that I encounter through parenting groups in the community, but these are also messages that all of you can spread to your employees. How many of you have parents who work for you, parents of young children? Most of you, right? So there are opportunities even for parents who aren't disadvantaged in that way to do a better job preparing their kids for school, but also to deepen their own understanding of what contributes to successful reading so that they can be better advocates in their schools, in their preschools, in the community.
I wanted to build on what I said earlier because I realized I didn't tie in the public service part to it. So it's one thing to do the research, right? The other part is that we plan to publish that research and make it available to like-minded organizations that have a desire to serve this greater Milwaukee community. So there's the tie-in to the public service. Sorry, I didn't mention that.
No, and feel free to interject at any point. So this is going to along the same lines. Being new to Milwaukee, you guys obviously are bringing fresh, new ideas, and for those we're really grateful. But how have Milwaukeeans reacted to these bold ideas, and have you been met with resounding support, or have you had some challenges along the way since you've been here?
I would say when it comes to reading, I've not found major opposition to kids being nurtured and taught to read. There's not some group lobbying for ignorance and illiteracy. So I would say that the challenges are in the weeds, it's in the details, it's in shifting people's perspective from thinking this is a school problem to this is a years prior to school problem. It's in identifying people to fund large-scale mapping of the literacy resources in our community. I think that's part of the challenge. Milwaukee has to be very honest and say, this is what we're doing, or in many cases, this is what we're not doing to support families with young children. And I think that to your point about documenting things and I think there needs to be an accounting of these are the 12 things that really make a difference with babies, with toddlers, with preschoolers. And this is what we offer, but we're offering it to 50 kids, or we're offering it to 100 kids, and there are thousands of kids that need that. So I think that sort of base level accounting, there's maybe not opposition, but there's no one like jumping up and down saying, yes, I want to fund that research. And I think the next challenge is then around storytelling, which is a theme that came up earlier. We need more of the people who are able to tell the story of these challenges and sell the story of funding the things that it takes to address them. And so I think that's a marketing challenge, a communication challenge, a development capacity building challenge.
It is. Maxie, what about you? Have you been met with support of some of the bold ideas you had?
I would call it cautious optimism. I think overall very positive. I mean, I came in the door telling my board that more than music discovery, we had to be about public service in a more holistic manner. So that means looking at our podcasts and our storytelling and uplifting that, amplifying voices in the community. But in my mind, it also includes us entering the journalism space. and then asking the question, what kind of journalism can Radio Milwaukee do that is unique and special to the demographics we're trying to serve? And so we've looked at how we can do data and enterprise and solutions journalism on a monthly basis in a unique digital-first approach. Our audiences are already digital primary. How can we meet them there with a journalism that allows for deep dives, that involves other resources in the region, and allows us to really do the investigative journalism to do what you just spoke to, and that is assess what's working, what's not, why are we continuing to fund things that don't, and how can we more robustly support things that do. So that's kind of the pathway I think we're headed. So when I speak to that, I told the board I won't do this unless we raise the independent capital to do it. It won't come out of Gen Ops because it's about $1 million enterprise. We're not there yet. So again, cautiously optimistic.
Bart.
Ooh, challenges. Should have Chancellor Mone come up and talk about the challenges. There are some challenges in this state, and they are real, and people lump into a big umbrella things they like and don't like, and then politicize it. But what the reality on the ground is that we need more of our community in our university. We need to have programs in the university that retain those students. It's one thing to enter college and step foot in college. It's another thing to finish and to change your life, your family. So a first generation student, that's great, but they got to finish. They got to be able to walk across campus and see folks that they identify with. And we can't run from reality, and I think sometimes we are running from reality, and I think we would all agree education is where this all the change can begin. And the university's doing great work, but they need help. We need help to do the good work that we're doing. And although we're diverse, we can be much more diverse, and we can do better with retention, and we need help with that, and that's a challenge.
I just had the opportunity to take a tour of UWM and meet with some of the students, and I have to tell you that their response to how they feel on campus and how they feel represented, seen, and heard was absolutely some of the most touching things I had ever heard, having been there and watching 7 students who all individually told us how welcome they felt at UWM, and they were from different places and different backgrounds. So there's definitely something that's happening right at UWM. You brought up funding, and per capita, we're one of the most culture-rich cities in America, and that's true. We have more theater seats per capita than most peer-sized cities across the country, but we have almost no state funding for the arts. Both GMC and Visit Milwaukee advocate for more funding, but for Maxie especially, what has your experience in other destinations taught you about how to foster a well-funded and cohesive arts scene?
Yeah, I've never been in a city, a state that didn't fund the arts in the way that this state does. So it's a travesty. And I think you mentioned earlier, there's a correlation when art funding is really low to the low performance of the community in various areas, education in particular. So I think that's sad, but that goes without saying. The question is, what are remedies?
Yes.
I mean, it'd be easy and obvious to say, we've got to find a way to find some tax dollars, but I know that was, done recently, and I think that's a hard sell. The only other thing I can think of, is for there to be some kind of PR marketing campaign, and an emphasis on organizations that amplify the work that's being done by our arts community, to get everyday citizens and to get folks throughout the state to feel like this is a destination worthy of coming to. And I know you talked about concerns about public safety. That's part of the calculus here. Mm-hmm. I can't speak to how people in other parts of the state see this city. That's new to me. But that's where I would start, looking at how we can amplify arts and culture in a way that may be unique and create some things in the vein of what we just saw this past weekend, or week, I should say, with cultures and community. I think that's a great initiative, and things like that are very solid.
And there's things that happen throughout the
Sure,
entire
absolutely.
community that are trying to do that. I think a lot of times it's just a matter of everyone's doing it in silos and not together, so you don't get the same impact. And I know that's something that GMC is going to try to remedy throughout the next couple of years, is how are we a connector to make sure that we know what everyone else is doing. Maya, Bart, do you have any thoughts on the arts?
Texas was not known for its arts funding, but I'll speak as an Ohioan. I think Ohio does invest quite heavily in the arts. And as a kid growing up there, I know that my early experiences with the arts, music, theater, visual arts, were personally a driver of personal development. I think they also were something that allowed me to distinguish myself in college applications and how I wound up at Harvard. So I remember winning an art criticism open. So why would I have even been writing art criticism in high school? Because I had gone on so many visits to the Akron Art Museum, and then we would go to the Cleveland Art Museum, which is phenomenal. Why was I winning competitions in band competitions as a flute player? Again, because of exposure. So I think that part of the answer is the storytelling and connecting the dots for people about the power of the arts in individual lives and how it connects with educational outcomes and career opportunities, and also how it just supports a vibrant community fabric.
Bart?
Well, I'm a basketball coach, so.
I'm going to ask a sports question next.
But I will tell you that as we made decisions on where to live and where our 9-year-old, most of our children are a little older, but our 9-year-old was going to go to school, Shorewood city schools or village schools, how you say that, but they have an excellent arts program, and that was a swing vote for where we lived. It was tough to get a home exactly there, but we did, and our 9-year-old's in band, and I think he's visiting his art teacher's tour of art homes around the area this week, doing a walking tour, so that was important, and it will be important for the next person that visits or moves to Milwaukee.
Absolutely. We also have a rich sports culture. We love our teams here in Milwaukee and Wisconsin. How do you see sports playing a role in creating a sense of community? And I'll start with you, Coach.
Just as the arts do, teams bring communities together, and really the big change in the community here versus when I was here before, I think the Bucks, some people love them, some people, the owners aren't always here, but they've done a phenomenal job of bringing the city together, and part of that's winning. Winning solves a lot of things. But the Bucks, the Brewers, Marquette, the Marquette wasn't always didn't always have the crowds that they have now, and the 16,000, we were getting 16,000 when I was there, and the Bucks were getting 10 in the same building for their games, and now it just seems like the entire city is behind the teams. We want them to be behind the Panthers as well. We are the quiet, surging population. There are way more of us out there than you think. But I think it brings the community together, and this community really, from a sports perspective, is pretty tight.
Yeah, Maya, Marquette is doing an incredible conference, and they're bringing people in from all over the world for sports in the service of humanity. And it's being put on by the Chancellor's office, and it gives everyone an opportunity to talk about just how connected, how sports really do play a role in creating that sense of community. Do you see that through your work, through the work with your husband?
I do, but I see it in my just own work and also in my life as a parent. So if we think about sports in Milwaukee, you have the Bucks and the Brewers, and then every Sunday I see people in Green Bay Packers attire, like lots
Just
of people.
Sunday?
So yeah, but especially Sunday. So that was one of the things I noticed right away after moving. So there's obviously professional sports play a role, and these alliances and groups and things, and then there's college sports, which are an intimate part of both of our lives. But then I think there's also youth sports, which contribute to the health and wellness of our kids. I know when we moved in 2021, May of 2021. Texas gets out of school really early, so school was still going on here. So we moved just 2 days after she finished school there, so she could join a soccer team here and start to meet people. But also in COVID, that time outside playing was so critical and important for just the well-being and social connection of kids. So I think that we have to speak of sports and think of the impact of sports at all of these different levels. Also Saturday, Cecilia and I and some others were walking in the parks, and just seeing people walking, riding bicycles, again, getting out, moving is so important.
Milwaukee is, we just started subscribing to a research data firm. As you've all said, research is incredibly important, and one of the top 3 positive things about Milwaukee that comes up consistently since we started subscribing is biking, hiking, and cycling. So it is certainly something that has allowed us to become more of a sports city, youth sports. Having that national championship from the Bucks in 2021 really solidified us as a sports city, and then allowed us to start booking more of that youth sports into our convention center, into the Baird Center. Maxie?
I'm a college town kid. I grew up on the campus of Michigan State University, so you should have seen me on the flight when we beat Marquette in hoops. In the tournament, I had my Spartan gear in full blaze flying from DC to Milwaukee, and every person on there had a comment as I walked to my seat. No, I always tell people I'd rather lose out loud than win quietly, so I talk a lot of smack. But with all that said, I love the bike trails and just the green spaces. And like you said earlier, the lake is amazing, and all the activity that happens there. So that's one of the things I really do love about Milwaukee, just the fact that there's so much outdoor activity. Even the fact that people ride their bikes in the dead of winter blows my mind. But that's a thing here. And that, you know, again, I'm getting used to these things, but that blows my mind.
It is. All right, so I'm going to ask you, what advice would you give to someone who is new to Milwaukee? Maxie, I'll start with you.
The big thing to me is just get engaged. I mean, this is every Midwestern. I've lived in Cleveland. I'm from East Lansing. My wife's from the south side of Chicago. I've always felt that the Midwestern cities are the most welcoming. Just really embrace you. And as a Black executive in particular, there's always folks who really want to see you succeed. And so I feel like I've had a bit of a skewed perspective on this question. But I would just say get engaged. I think, again, people want you to do well here. People want you to like this city. And I lived in Baltimore for years, and I noticed that Baltimore had what I used to call municipal low self-esteem. And what I mean by that is that this chip on the shoulder about DC was real. People really reflected that in how they talked about Baltimore and in comparison to DC. I don't see that here with respect to Chicago, and I think that's beautiful. The fact that people here really are proud to be from Milwaukee is a real positive, and it's one of the things I really enjoy about the people here, a real sense of pride.
Thank you. I love that, because a panel like this 10 years ago, it wouldn't have been the same. It truly wouldn't have been the same. You would have said that we had municipal low self-esteem.
I can be a spokesperson for that too.
Maya.
I too have found Milwaukee to be incredibly welcoming. I've had more people, again, I've lived in a dozen cities, and I've had more people call, email, and say, how can I help? I hear you're working on this, how can I help? So I appreciate that about this place. I would say my advice to newcomers would be to just bring your greatest strengths to the biggest problems that are here, and you'll get to know so many people. I think sometimes we come into new communities and we're a little timid about what we bring, how we serve. And when you have some expertise, whatever it may be, lead with that and try to make a difference. This is the kind of place where you can make a difference.
Bart?
What was the question?
What advice would you give to someone who is moving to Milwaukee?
Moving to Milwaukee?
Or new?
Or new. I'll give 2 pieces of advice. People that have been here and people that are... So the first is that it is a great city. You do have to get through the winter. I'm from the South, so it's real to me. But once you get through that, And it's amazing because when the sun comes out, and it really might be the greatest place on earth in the summertime. Really.
It is.
So whatever you have to do in the winter to get through, I'm in the gym, so it doesn't bother me.
Someone told me that's the source of all of our creative energy, is that we spend so much time indoors in that winter, in those winter months, creating, that we just bust out when spring comes.
All these big ideas. And then my advice to the folks that are from here, shout Milwaukee from the top of the mountain and be proud of it. And if you're from UWM, do the same thing. We're too quiet about the good things that are going on here. I go back to the South and how's Milwaukee? Well, you guys should have already told them how Milwaukee is.
Right.
It really is a great place, and you need to shout it.
More marketing, more storytelling. All right, I'm going to answer some really quick last questions for each of you before we go to the audience. Tell me your favorite place to eat or your favorite thing to do. Start with you, Max.
My favorite restaurant is Loopy and Iris. And I have to say it because Mr. Michel is on my board of directors. No, truthfully, the chef is fantastic. There have been a couple other restaurants I've gone to that are fantastic. What I will say is Milwaukee has great culinary skills and restaurants. So I've really
punch
enjoyed it.
above our weight, 100%.
No doubt about it.
200 independently owned and operated restaurants.
It's amazing.
Top Chef is going to debut next spring here in Milwaukee. So.
And if you know Tariq Moody, who I work with, you know he's a connoisseur not only of food but sake. And so hanging out with him means I get to go to all the great places.
Maya.
I do not cook at all, so I eat out a lot. For my birthday, I went to Cloud Red in Shorewood, which I really enjoyed. I recently had lunch at, I think it's called Bavette. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah.
Third Ward, love that, highly recommend. Through youth sports, through soccer, I met a woman who does, her Instagram is Nosh, MKE, so I go to her for all restaurant recommendations. I'll pass that on.
Bart.
Well, Cloud Red, I live 2 blocks away, so I do like Cloud Red. Cafe Hollander, really, I don't know so much about for the food, but when the sun's out and you sit out with the fountain and the students and the folks in the community walking by, there's not a better place. And then I'd have to, Omar would be on me if I didn't say carnivore. I do like it.
Great place for steaks. All right, well, I'm going to open it up for questions. If anyone has any questions for the panelists.
Yeah, that might be dead.
John.
Yeah, this is for Coach. Although the other panelists can ask if they have a comment, but when you're recruiting people, I think part of what you're doing, I would think, would be pitching Milwaukee.
Yeah.
So when you're pitching Milwaukee, what kind of things are you pitching to these kids that you're trying to get to come here that might want to, that might be the turning point?
Yeah, it's really amazing because if when you say Milwaukee, and I've got some Milwaukee kids on the team, but we've got kids from all over the country, and when you say Milwaukee, that it doesn't jump out for them. But when you start to sell it and they get here, you just see a complete 180. And then the kids, I was worried because I brought a couple of players from North Carolina last year. How are they going to do with the winter? How are they? And they love Milwaukee. I mean, to keep them because of Milwaukee. And we sell, we obviously sell the sports teams. Who doesn't love Giannis and Bucks? And we sell the downtown. And coming from Charlotte, where the downtown was really kind of eroding under our feet, Milwaukee's done a great job keeping the downtown vibrant. I know John wants his employees to come back to work, so it's even more in the office, so it's even more vibrant. But Bradford Beach, one of the top 5 urban beaches, when you tell them we have a beach, and we have multiple beaches, they're blown away. And then, it's just so many cultural things. You take them along the lake front and then take them to the Deer District, and you go to the public market. I mean, there's so much. I mean, by the time that these kids leave from their official visit, their head is full of just Milwaukee dreams. So it's a great place to sell.
I don't recruit athletes, obviously, but although they could be athletic. I recruit media professionals, and it has been a struggle bringing them to Milwaukee. I think Milwaukee could increase its PR around how diverse this place is. I didn't know this was a majority people of color city until I got here. I was blown away by that fact until I did the research, decide to come here. I think that's an advantage if sold properly. I think the fact that this is as diverse a place, because I don't think anyone thinks of Milwaukee as being a diverse place. And I think that's a miss in terms of how we market and sell this city, not just to visitors, but people to come here and live, because you can have great impact here. It's one of those cities that's small enough to make a difference, big enough to have impact. I don't know if that's the phrase, but something like that.
I will give Peggy credit, though. She just shot a video, and part of the video has one of our players who's from Milwaukee. And
We're using local influencers, and Lyric Davis is from Milwaukee and just came back to play for UWM. So that's what we're trying to do, is get that word out through using authentic local people. We also have a TV show. I think Cecilia walked out. She's going to be in season 2 of the TV show, in which we are featuring local Milwaukeeans and their authentic Milwaukee.
I think the people are a wonderful selling point. I'm looking at Tiara Haynes is in the audience, and her husband is a member of Shaka's staff at Marquette Basketball, and I remember having a conversation with her. I was in Austin at the time, selling them on being part of, or her, on joining our team, coming here, and trying to do some amazing things. So I think, in reflecting back on that time, it's the people who are congregating here and what the city supports them in accomplishing the visions that you can bring to fruition here because of the wonderful support.
Any other questions? Well, I want to thank all 3 of you. You are amazing Milwaukeeans, and we're lucky to have you here. You may get a call from me asking you to do some PR for the city as we go out selling what we do here and why people should come here, because sometimes the first time someone sees the city is as a visitor, and we have to make that impact so that we can continue to grow our population base. So thank each of you very much, and I will invite Peggy back to the stage.
I was like, I'm going to talk to you now.
All right, I want to thank each of you for coming to today's meeting. Special thanks to our 3 speakers. It was great for us to hear these fresh perspectives about Milwaukee, now your home, and we're thrilled it is your home. When I accepted this role as the GMC board chair, one of the reasons I did so was because I was so excited about what I thought we could do together. Each of you certainly have sparked some new thoughts and ideas. I was writing them down on my note card, in fact. And to you, Peggy. Peggy and I always joke that we're usually the only Peggy in the room until the 2 of us are together, and then Peggy Troy shows up, and there's 3 of us, and we don't know what to do. I want to thank you for your role in today's meeting and for the work you've done and continue to do to create such a positive narrative for Milwaukee. Peggy has worked hard over these last few years to ensure Milwaukee is thriving. She kept our city vibrant during a pandemic, prepped for 2 national conventions, a convention center expansion, an NBA championship, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Kudos to you, Peggy. Again, a reminder, please provide meeting feedback, share your ideas, ask questions, highlight things you love about Milwaukee, whatever's on your mind, on the note cards. We love it when our members share. Your collective voices make the GMC stronger. I would ask you to leave those cards in the basket where you picked up your name tag. We hope you enjoyed today's meeting, and we'll be back to our tabletop discussion format at the November meeting. That's on November 13th. So I'm going to adjourn this meeting and announce the randomly selected winner of our door prize, which thanks to UWM and you, Bart, 2 tickets to any UWM men's basketball home game. Go Panthers. I am also a UWM alum. Jim Pop. Congrats. Heather will email you the details. Thanks for being here.